I got this PSP 1000 on Kijiji, which is a local, kind of like Craigslist here in Canada. It's overall in pretty good condition. The buttons all feel good, but there's two major problems. One, the battery that came with it is pretty much toast. It'll charge. It says it will charge, but it'll only hold the PSP on for a few seconds, and it turns off. So it's not bloated or anything, but it just won't hold a charge. So I ordered a new one of those, which I'm going to replace. The other thing is the screen has, it's maybe hard to see on camera, but there's some scratches on there. There's actually like a dent right there, which is pretty bad. It's harder to find 1000s in pristine condition, but you can do it. However, you're not necessarily doomed if you can't find one. You can buy faceplate replacements. I've never done this for the 1000. I've done it for 2000 and 3000s many times. What I intend to do is replace the faceplate, replace the battery, or just add a new battery, and then I'm going to basically just resell it, probably for basically what the cost was to get into it. I just wanted to do it for a video. So I ordered this online. I actually ordered it off Amazon. It was slightly more expensive than ordering on eBay, but it came much faster. The eBay ones they usually say like 14 days to like 2 months or something like that. So I decided to get this one. It only had one review, but I'm sure it's fine. Yeah, it looks generally like the ones you get on eBay. The printing quality is actually decent. I've got some of these in the past where the printing quality is not that great. But that actually is not bad. It's not going to be as good as the original, but this is actually not bad at all. You can tell they're typically the third party because the glue on the back here isn't the greatest. Yeah, that's kind of strange there. Other things to note, the battery, it's actually an aftermarket battery. This Ostent brand, which makes the shell casings as well. I have a PSP Go shell casing from it. These seem to be okay online from what I've read, but this one's, it's strange because when I put it in, it will, after a moment or two, it will recognize it as full. It actually charged to full. However, if I take out the power, it'll work for a little while, and then it shuts off. So there's a couple problems here. One, the battery isn't discharging. So, it's not that it's a dead battery necessarily. It could have enough power from the battery, and thus it powers off. Sometimes it lasts a little longer, but it is what it is. Or the battery connections aren't that great. Something's wrong with it. Or it's just, the battery's toast. And the battery actually looks fine visually compared to this OEM battery that I got that's kind of exploding. So it looks fine, and when I went to buy it, it seemed to be okay. It held full charge, but clearly it didn't. And I realized there's something wrong with it, but I decided to kind of buy it anyways because I don't know, I wanted to make a video about this. So that's one of the problems with it. Another thing is the analog stick seems to be doing some funny motions. So I'm going to actually put in a game here. Toss that in there. And we'll get that loaded up, but you'll see the analog, it kind of freaks out. On the XMB menu, everything seems fine. So you'll see here once it loads up. So you can hear that sound. And when I first heard that, I was thinking, okay, there it goes. And it's definitely the analog. See, when I start activating the analog, it makes a difference. And in the menus, it'll go crazy. So there's something up with the analog. It could just be, there's bad connection in there. What I'm starting to suspect, there might be something wrong with the motherboard on this. Maybe it got wet or it shorted because there's some funniness there. And there's funniness with the battery. However, everything else seems to work. All the volume, UMD, all the other buttons seem to work fine. So it's hard to say what's actually wrong with it. Okay, so let's take this apart and put on the faceplate. It actually wouldn't let me update the firmware. It said the battery was too low. So that's probably a good sign that the battery is just dead. And it's showing it as fully charged, but the software actually knows that it's not charged enough to actually be able to update safely. So I'm assuming this is basically the same as the older PSPs, the more recent PSPs. So there's one there, there's one here. So the last screw is actually under here, so it looks like this PSP's actually never been opened. But it's actually under here. This is like the warranty. So you can see there's just the 2 screws there. So you can keep this and put it back on if you want. Okay, so that's all the screws out of this side. You do have to take them out of the bottom here too though. So in theory, okay, as I say, in theory that comes off really easily, and yes it does. So, and these buttons just kind of sit here. It looks like the analog stick is actually built into the front faceplate on the PSP 1000. Let's we're gonna have to take it off anyways, but let's see if maybe there's something wrong with that. So most of these just pop right out. It's just a little rubber pad. So it looks like we have 2 screws here. This part I've never done, so we're learning as we go. Okay, so first things first, we have this little analog stick here. I'm sure it's replaceable, but let's just see if we can, maybe it's a faulty connector or something like that. So, you basically have where this sits on here, you have this kind of array here of connectors, so we're going to clean that with a little bit of alcohol, and then I'm actually going to blow a little bit of air into the bottom of that, and see if I get, maybe there's some dust in there. I remember in the analog stick on the switch was having issues. That was one of the things people would recommend doing, was cleaning out dust, and I've done that on a 360 controller to actually fix it. I have a feeling there's actually something wrong with this, but yep, we'll see if that works. So here there's basically, that slides around, but you can lift up that lip a little bit there. I don't know if you can see that, and then I'm going to blow some air in there. So it looks like this has a screen on the back, screen protector on the back. Take that off at the end, take the front one off, doesn't really matter, but so there's one on the front, one on the back. I guess I'll have to take off the back one first. Yeah, so we can just put these all back in now. So there's a little bit of stickiness there. It doesn't even have to technically stick, but this D-pad area and the buttons area. Often when you get them, they're full of grime. Like over the years, the shoulder pads are full of grime. This is a little bit. That's actually in good condition, so that's easier to get on than the PSP 2000 and 3000. They actually have a little bit more challenge to get them on and off. This one looks like it just literally just sits on there, but they're clean. They're not actually gross at all. So, which is nice. Usually they are gross. It's a strange PSP. It has these weird problems, but it doesn't look, super worn out or anything. So it's a little bit odd. Okay, so the X button's in. The nice thing is this is kind of trial and error. You can't really, you could put the wrong key in, but you can't really mess this up too much. We just pop in the analog stick and we're good to go. So it just pops in there. If there's grime on it, you can use like an alcohol wipe and you can do a few different layers there, but yeah, that's good. Basically just pops right back on. Okay. Put the analog thing back on, which was kind of gross. I'm going to clean it again, but I'll do that after. Okay. Okay, so before we go any further, I'm just going to, no point in getting all the screws back in. Let's turn it on. let's actually test that analog and see if it made any difference whatsoever. Okay, so here we are in the game. So far it's not making that annoying sound. Oh, there it goes, yep. So you can see here there's definitely something up with the analog stick. It's probably just not working. You can buy them on eBay. Looks like they're pretty cheap, $2 or $3. So, I would guess it's probably toast and needs to be replaced. So, that's another thing. The analog stick is gone on this. So it's going to need a new battery, but the analog stick, the battery's on its way already. The analog stick looks like it's toast. But let's have a look at that screen. Yeah, so the screen looks great. So you can see here that the faceplate, it's more or less, they do a really good job with it. It sits a little bit higher here. It's not screwed in yet. But it's a little bit larger potentially in some areas, but I think this is actually a really good reproduction. So, yeah, the analog stick's messed up for sure. I can replace that. It looks like, a couple bucks on eBay. It'll probably take, a month to get here, but I'll do that in the meantime in the background. And, by then I'll have the battery and I'll have to replace that analog device, the whole thing actually. Okay, so I got this analog stick in the mail yesterday. I got it from Amazon. You can get them on eBay too. It was more expensive on Amazon, but it came within a few days, whereas eBay was going to be like potentially a month or two. I actually had taken apart the analog stick because I read online that it is possible that it could be just dirty inside. So I actually took it apart, which was not that easy, but it was fine. But it turns out that wasn't the problem. So there's definitely something wrong with the analog stick. It's just outright not working. So we'll just replace it and hopefully it works. If this doesn't work, there's definitely something wrong with the PCB, the motherboard. So in theory, it's as simple as that. You just put it in, and you're basically good to go. Okay, during this phase, it's always good to have some compressed air. You can always wipe it off, the screen, the actual LCD underneath with one of these little microfiber cloths, so you don't scratch it. But it can be difficult to get like all the little tiny specks of dust off. It doesn't help that I have dogs, but a little blast of compressed air right before you put the shell back helps. So you can see there he's still running, even with the new analog stick. It's not as bad as before, but that could be a calibration issue, or it could be there's actually something wrong with this PSP, like the motherboard itself. So let's go back. Let's try to do this calibration thing. I don't know if this is actually a myth or this is true, but let's try it out. So from what I read, you go over here, you go down to system settings, and then you go to system information. Once this is loaded up, you rotate the joystick clockwise 30 times. And we're still having issues. It's not as bad, but it's still having a little, it's still pulling up a little bit. Could just be some dust in there at this point. So I'm going to try that calibration one more time, and then if it's still not working, I'm going to take it apart again. I'll have a look at the actual analog and see if there's some dust underneath. I'll blow that out with some air, and then maybe clean off the contacts because I might have touched them and got some oil or something on them with my fingers. And then at that point, I don't know, we'll have to just keep going with it. So. Well, I've been playing for a couple of minutes actually here, and it doesn't seem to be drifting anymore. So maybe it just needed to kind of calibrate itself, or just, I don't know, work out the kinks, whatever that would be. But now it seems there's no drift whatsoever. It looks great. Yeah, everything seems fine. So I guess, once you put it in, don't expect it to instantly, I guess, figure out its settings. I did that little calibrate, and then now it's good. There's no drift whatsoever. So yeah, I guess in the end it was a success. So, I just did a replacement for $10. Yeah, so basically I got this PSP, it had a dead battery, and it had an analog stick issue and a crappy screen or faceplate. Replaced this faceplate for about $10, which you could get cheaper if you went eBay. Analog stick was $10 on Amazon. Again, it could be cheaper on eBay. So $20 for these two and $10 for the battery, so that's $30. If you did everything on eBay, it would probably be closer to $20 total to fix everything. So not bad. If you can get a PSP 1000 for a decent price, and there's some scratched faceplate or dead battery, it's not the end of the world basically. You can put a little bit of money and a little bit of effort into it, and you can repair it, and it seems to be good to go now. So. All right, well there you go. Thanks for watching. Got a functional PSP now.